Looks like there's a new sheriff in town for all the tennis fans out there. As Roger Federer officially retires, Carlos Alcaraz slowly proves that he's got what it takes to be part of the big leagues. In this video, we'll be talking about the two tennis players' careers. It'll also serve as a nice little tribute to the Swiss maestro. First up, a recap of the season. Back when this season began in early January, COVID was still a very serious threat everyone needed to avoid. And just because we use the past tense for the pandemic doesn't mean you can leave the house without a mask. Novak Djokovic, famous for his impeccable skills on the court, let his political stance get in the way of his iconic career. His refusal to get vaccinated caused him to miss some very opening tournaments this season. Other players who think Djokovic is a bigger threat than the virus let out a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, Federer was still recovering from an injured knee, and Rafael Nadal won his second Australian Open after defeating Daniil Medvedev. This made the season more exciting because El Niño hadn't won a major title since the 2020 French Open. Over on the women's side, #1 reigning Wimbledon champion Ashley Barty became the first Australian since 1978 to win the Australian Open. But like Federer, her career came to an early end after announcing her retirement. This gave Polish player Iga Świątek a clear path to the #1 spot. There were many more ups and downs this year from players you love and players you hate. But we're more interested in the newfound talent who defied all odds this season. Following up, a look at Alcaraz's season. The young player started the season in 32nd place and ended it in the first place. He's also just 19 years old. This was the first time since 2003 that someone other than Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, or Andy Murray finished at the top of the ATP rankings. A total of 5 titles were won by Alcaraz, including the Masters 1000 in Miami and Madrid. The first-place position beats Medvedev's 16-week-long record, putting him in second place in the decade's rankings. At such a young age, the Spanish player already won a Grand Slam, which is a huge achievement given the competition this year. Being on top of the big leagues comes with a mental toll. Alcaraz isn't even in his 20s and now has eyes from fierce opponents looking at him as if he's their prey. Even his coach, Juan Carlos Ferrero, confirmed that it took time for his young prodigy to adapt to the new wave after the US Open. His victories make him look like the Mbappe of tennis. Sorry, but we'll be mentioning football in this video a few times because we're still suffering from post-World Cup syndrome. Defeating Nadal and Djokovic is a big deal on its own, and it looks like he won't be stopping anytime soon. But does Carlos have what it takes to rule the court? 2023 says otherwise. Coming up, can Alcaraz be the new Federer? Well, many fans think that he's the new Nadal since both of them are Spanish players. Throughout the season, tennis's top player Djokovic remained absent from many tournaments because of his fear of needles. He quite possibly could be the man to humble the rising star next season. The two have already played in the semifinals of the Madrid Open back in May, where Alcaraz emerged as the finalist. He then made his way to win the Open entirely. The reason we're comparing Federer and the Spanish youngster is because of the coincidental timing. The world said goodbye to Roger and said hello to Carlos, because of how one retired while the other emerged as the #1 player. If we were to consider the facts in all this, then yes, Alcaraz does have the potential to rule the court. Federer was just 22 when he won his first Grand Slam in Wimbledon, while the Spanish prodigy did it at 19 along with being on the top of the scoreboard. Unfortunately, these two never got the chance to face each other off in any match, and Federer found it disappointing that it didn't happen. The Swiss maestro spoke good things about the new talent and found his performance to be fantastic, saying that he's bound to be the next superstar. As we said, the world said goodbye to Federer and his legendary career back in September when he announced his retirement. So let's talk about how he changed the game next. Moving on to how Roger changed tennis. In an essay called Federer as Religious Experience, David Wallace described how life-changing watching the man play could be. And to all the Office fans out there, we don't mean the CEO of Dunder Mifflin, a very famous novelist had the same name. Anyway, the essay talked about how Federer would prance around the court flawlessly like a ballerina, begin his serve so easily and end it explosively. Wallace urged readers to watch the maestro play as he blended grace and purpose with aesthetics and achievement. With fancy words like that, you just know how great of a player Roger was, especially in his prime. Tennis fans wouldn't call him the GOAT, since that's a very delicate argument to deal with. But the Swiss player has changed the game for the better. Like a ballet dancer, Federer made the sport more appealing to watch. The men's tour was a friendlier place because of him, even when losing a match. Millions of new fans emerged because of him, showing everyone that you don't have to stop being a champion when you're 30, like most athletes in the past have. The Swiss legend has been with many of us for 24 years. Some watched him growing up, while others learned to love the player. For that, a lot of tennis fans are forever grateful and will miss seeing him on the court. Okay, who's cutting onions here? We're changing the topic now. Let's talk about about the Love Cup. This tournament is one of the highly anticipated ones of the season where Team Europe takes on Team World. This season was a huge turn of events because, for the first time ever, Team World took the win. Now, this is a huge deal because the losing team consisted of the Big Three along with Andy Murray, Casper Ruud, and Stefanos Tsitsipas. All these are in the top 10 ATP rankings, so being the ones to defeat this all-star ensemble would require a lot of devotion. This also marked the retirement of Federer, and watching him and Nadal lose Jack Sock and Francis Tiafoe left fans in a frenzy. Should they be amazed at Team World's victory, or should they be disappointed and angry that Roger's last match was a defeat? Like Lionel Messi, for example, there are rumors about him retiring and not being able to play the next event in 2026. A lot can happen in that time, but the fact that he captained his team to win the biggest prize in sports history is a perfect ending to his terrific career. Unfortunately, Federer didn't meet the same fate, but his experience and presence on the court were enough for fans to respect their favorite player's departure. Events like these are what made people realize that the world of tennis is, in fact, changing. Could this be for the better or worse? That can only be answered by who you support in the game. Up next, the new generation of stars. Professional sports will always have their ups and downs. Your favorite stars will suddenly retire, or they'd get outperformed by a fresh new recruit to the game. This is what's happening in tennis and pretty much every other sport in the world. The FIFA World Cup was a huge roller coaster of emotions because many of the fan-favorite players wouldn't be appearing in the next tournament for years later. Cristiano Ronaldo didn't get his win, Modric and Lewandowski are probably retiring, while Messi made it loud and clear who the best is. As for the new talent, Kylian Mbappe took the internet by storm and was instantly a part of the Ronaldo versus Messi debate. On the tennis side of things, Carlos Alcaraz could end up being the new face of the sport. Ruud is also a young player who is part of Team World in the Love Cup. 21-year-old Italian player Jannik Sinner has already won 6 ATP titles in singles and 1 in doubles. He's also the youngest ATP title holder since 2008 by winning the 2020 Sofia Open. Sinner was the youngest to have 5 titles since Djokovic in 2007. The fact that we're seeing new names beating records held by the stars who seem to be invincible is a very interesting experience. One last question arises: will the new age manage to defeat the previous legends? Lastly, is the world slowly saying goodbye to the big leagues? With Federer retired at 41 years old, fans think that many other players will follow in his footsteps out of the game. What's more, Rafael Nadal recently received the prestigious Real Camino from the King of Spain and hoped that fans didn't think he was retiring anytime soon. This was until the Love Cup, when he pondered whether an inevitable retirement would see the day of light sooner than expected. El Niño has had a few injuries in the knee and hip, making it seem that physical constraint would be the leading cause of ending his career. And then there's Djokovic, who refuses to retire anytime soon because he thinks that he feels better than ever and that his body is finally listening to him. The Serbian thinks that being 35 and older has its plus sides when it comes to performing on the court. It looks like Federer is the only one who decided to end his career before the rest, making the competition a little less tough. Will the new champions manage to be the new face of tennis? Forget Mbappe, Ronaldo, and Messi. Carlos Alcaraz is enough to surpass everyone else. History will have his name. We'll just have to wait and see. What do you think? Let us know if Alcaraz has got what it takes to be the new Federer, or even the new Nadal, in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up button if you liked this video, and be sure to subscribe to our channel to see more of our content. We'll see you in the next one.